By mid-October 2025, the shocking tally of over 11,200 Russian tanks destroyed rings like a death knell for an entire outdated military playbook. Among them, thousands are rusty relics from the Soviet era, steel beasts built to burn up ammo, not to claim victory. But what truly stunned the world wasn't those old wrecks. It was when Putin's prized gem, the T-90M Prorv, hailed as the world's best tank, finally rolled onto the Donetsk battlefield for the first time, only to vanish in a single day. A full year of hoarding. Hundreds of millions in production costs. Yet in just one night at Shakov, Russia's entire mechanized master plan crumbled into smoldering scrap metal. Why did Russia's most advanced tank flop so fast? And what does this mean for the future of warfare in the drone age? The answers could flip how the whole world sees Moscow's so-called steel supremacy. Imagine, a tank Putin bragged could crush anything in its path, stocked up like a secret weapon to smash Ukraine's defenses near Pokrovsk. But when unleashed, it met a wall of mines, artillery, and swarming drones that exposed every flaw. This isn't just another battlefield blunder. It's a wake-up call that old-school armor might be no match for modern tech tricks. Stick around to uncover how one disastrous assault shattered illusions and hinted at a new era where brains beat brawn and drones rule the skies. Russia unleashed its prized T-90M Prorv tanks on the battlefield after suffering over 11,261 tank losses by October 16, 2025, and Vladimir Putin had praised this model as the world's best tank back in June 2023. Figures from Ukraine's Ministry of Finance highlight the heavy toll on Russian armor, where most destroyed vehicles came from old Soviet stocks meant to drain enemy supplies rather than secure wins. So deploying the advanced T-90M marked a desperate shift in tactics. Putin, during a visit to a military factory, claimed the tank could approach any position without leaving chances for foes, as it fired farther, hit more accurately, and offered superior protection, according to state news agency TASS. This boast aimed to boost morale among troops and allies, yet the decision to hold back these machines for so long showed Moscow's caution about risking top gear in grinding fights. Moscow stockpiled around 280 to 300 T-90M units throughout 2024 and into 2025, gearing up for a massive mechanized operation around Pokrovsk, as reported by United 24 Media and the Conflict Intelligence Team. Production ramps at factories like Uralvagonzavod focused on building these tanks quietly, avoiding early exposure to Ukrainian strikes that had already wiped out thousands of older models. Engineers added upgrades like better optics and reactive armor, hoping to create a force capable of breaking through fortified lines in eastern Ukraine. This buildup consumed hundreds of millions in resources, pulling from Russia's strained economy amid sanctions, and planners viewed Pokrovsk as the perfect spot to test the strategy, since capturing it could disrupt supply routes for Ukrainian forces across Donetsk Oblast. The main goal centered on seizing Shakov village, a crucial defensive anchor located 12 kilometers north of Pokrovsk, which would open paths for deeper advances into Donetsk's core areas. Military analysts note that Shakov sits east of a 24.8-mile salient carved by Russian pushes during the summer, so taking it meant embedding troops for fortified launches toward the logistics hub. Pokrovsk handles vital rail and road networks, feeding ammunition and reinforcements to Ukrainian units, and its fall could tilt the balance in the region. Russian commanders bet on overwhelming numbers to punch through, yet this plan overlooked Ukraine's growing expertise in layered defenses that blended traditional barriers with high-tech tools. The assault force featured 36 tanks, including several T-90Ms, 40 motorcycle squads for quick scouting, armored carriers for infantry transport, and elite Marine brigades expected to smash Ukraine's positions. These Marines, drawn from 5 units sent to the sector, ranked among Russia's top fighters outside special forces, and they rode in to soak up initial fire while heavier armor followed. Commanders anticipated that motorcycles would draw out munitions, allowing tanks to close in safely. But this echoed outdated Soviet methods ill-suited to today's drone-filled skies. Reports from Euromaidan Press detail how the group amassed an intimidating presence, with vehicles ready to embed and fortify once inside the village, setting stages for broader gains. Do you believe the best weapon can change the game if the strategy is outdated? The Russian operation kicked off on October 9th, and commanders split their units into waves with motorcycles leading the charge, while tanks trailed behind in a nod to classic Soviet tactics. Reports detail how this approach drew from old playbooks where light scouts tested defenses first, but the setup aimed to push forward under heavy fire near Shako village. Soldiers advanced in stages from different angles, coordinating strikes to overwhelm positions, yet the plan hinged on speed and surprise amid flat terrain that favored quick moves. Euromaidan Press accounts describe the assault as one of the largest recent efforts, involving elite groups that had trained for months to synchronize their push. The aim focused on wearing down Ukraine's bullets and explosives before the T-90M units rolled in close. Leaders figured that sending vulnerable riders ahead would force defenders to spend resources early, clearing paths for armored vehicles to dominate the fight. This method sought to mimic past successes in open fields, yet it overlooked how modern sensors could spot patterns quickly. Statistics from the scene show Russia committed dozens of assets in this phase, betting on exhaustion to tip the scales toward a breakthrough. Ukraine anticipated the script well in advance, and forces had set up strong barriers around the area. Intelligence allowed them to predict wave patterns, so they reinforced spots with hidden traps and elevated watch points. Units coordinated through secure channels, blending ground obstacles with aerial oversight to cover all approaches. Azov telegram posts reveal how this preparation turned the village into a tough nut, with layered setups that adapted to incoming threats. As Russian columns moved forward, the ground shook from blasts while the air filled with incoming fire. Mines detonated under wheels and tracks, halting advances in moments, and overhead attacks added chaos to the mix. Defenders triggered responses at key spots, combining direct hits with follow-up barrages that scattered survivors. United 24. Media updates note similar patterns in nearby pushes, where rapid reactions crushed momentum before it built. Confirmed outcomes from Euromaidan Press and Azov channels list 20 vehicles taken out, including 3 T-90M models, 16 armored transporters, and 41 bikes. These losses crippled the core of the attack, as heavy machinery failed to reach objectives intact, and lighter elements got wiped in the open. Breakdowns show how varied weapons targeted weak points, turning an organized force into isolated wrecks across the field. Numbers underscore the scale of destruction, with over half the assault group neutralized in hours. Russian troops faced grim casualties, tallying 107 killed and 51 wounded in the clash. These figures represent a major blow to morale, as many came from seasoned brigades deployed for high-impact roles. Medical evacuations strained resources, and the dead included fighters meant to hold ground after the initial breach. Azov reports highlight how this human cost amplified the tactical setback, leaving units unable to regroup effectively. That night, Ukrainian suicide drones pressed the assault on remnants hiding in Volodymyrivka, ensuring no one escaped alive. Operators launched waves of devices to hunt stragglers, picking off positions through darkness with precise strikes. This follow-through sealed the defeat as bombers cleared the contested spot by dawn. Euromaidan Press details confirm the village stood empty afterward, marking a complete rout for the invaders. What do you think caused this failure? Was it bad tactics or outdated Russian tech? Army recognition describes the T-90M as a powerhouse on spec sheets, equipped with a 125mm to A46M-4 cannon that launches laser-guided missiles up to 4 to 5 kilometers. It combined relict explosive reactive armor for blast defense, Q-net systems to fend off rocket grenades, a top speed of 60 kilometers per hour, and an operational range stretching 550 kilometers. Designers built this machine to dominate open battles, blending smoothbore firepower for both shells and guided projectiles that track targets precisely, while the hull carries extra fuel drums for extended missions without refueling stops. Protection layers aim to shield the front and sides from common threats, and agility helps maneuver through rough ground, yet these features shine brightest in controlled tests rather than chaotic fronts. Statistics from production lines show Russia rolled out hundreds annually, costing millions each, but battlefield realities often strip away the hype surrounding such engineering feats. Those strengths fade fast against today's combat zones, and first-person view drones zoom in low and swift to strike radar blind spots. Operators guide these devices close to the ground, dodging detection systems that scan higher altitudes so they hit vulnerable sections like engine vents or thin roof plates. Forbes reports detail how such tactics exploit gaps in electronic countermeasures, turning a tank's sensors useless amid buzzing swarms that carry small explosives. Deployment numbers reveal Ukraine fields thousands of these units monthly, with success rates climbing as pilots refine controls through video feeds, and this shift forces armored crews to abandon vehicles mid-fight. Casualty data tied to drone strikes underscore the toll, where over 100 T-90 variants fell victim since upgrades began, proving speed trumps heavy plating in tight engagements. Smart anti-tank mines and long-range guns adjusted via unmanned aerial vehicles lock down the T-90M's aiming right as it shows up. These explosives bury themselves and activate on specific signatures like magnetic fields from large metal masses, detonating underneath to flip hulls or disable tracks before operators react. Small wars. Journal analyses explain how UAV spotters relay coordinates in real time, directing shells with pinpoint accuracy that disrupts turret rotations and sighting optics. Production tweaks in Russia added coping mechanisms like slat cages, yet minefields combined with guided barrages overwhelm these fixes, leading to abandonment rates nearing 70% in exposed advances. Battlefield assessments count hundreds of such incidents yearly, where initial detection chains into rapid volleys that shatter advanced plans without direct line of sight. In truth, the national interest states that hovering bombs and Javelin-style overhead missiles have made much of Russian shielding outdated. These weapons linger above targets before diving straight down, bypassing side protections to punch through weaker tops, where armor thins out. Guidance relies on infrared seekers that ignore jamming attempts, and portable launchers allow infantry to strike from hidden spots kilometers away. Deployment figures from aid packages show thousands of Javelins delivered since hostilities ramped up, achieving hit ratios above 90% against moving assets. Reports highlight how this top attack method exploits design limits rooted in Cold War thinking, rendering even upgraded models like the T-90M prone to quick takedowns in dynamic settings. Global observers note a broader trend, where such tools level the field for lighter forces against heavy machinery, shifting doctrines toward mobility over mass. If you once thought Russian steel stood unbreakable, drop a comment after the next section. The T-90M structure keeps ammunition stored right under the crew seats without any safety wall, and this deadly leftover from the T-72 design turns minor hits into total disasters. Engineers based the modern version on that older model from the 1970s, where rounds sit in a carousel inside the fighting space, so penetration sparks chain reactions that wipe out everything inside. Small Wars Journal points out how Western tanks like the M1 Abrams use barriers to protect people from blasts, But Russian choices prioritize compact size over survival. Crews face instant risks from this setup, as flames or pressure waves spread unchecked through the hull. Defense studies count over 3,000 Russian tank wrecks in Ukraine tied to similar flaws, with at least 18 T-90M units gone by spring 2023 amid rising costs for replacements. Hits from above make the turret pop off violently, and the whole team dies on the spot due to the exposed storage system. Top strikes exploit thin roof plating, where drones or missiles punch through to ignite rounds below, sending the top flying high in a jack-in-the-box burst. Analysts describe ejections reaching 250 feet, scattering debris and ending fights before they start. Ukrainian tactics boost this weakness by guiding weapons to high angles, turning a strength like heavy front guards into useless weight. Reports track around 100 T-90 variants damaged or captured by mid-2022, many from such overhead attacks that leave no time for escape. Forbes labels this problem spinning turret syndrome, and the turret whirls out of control after a blow, causing the machine to destroy itself without heavy harm. Damage from light weapons shorts, electrical circuits, triggering endless clockwise spins that lock up aiming gears and force drivers to bail out. Theories link it to faulty sensors sending wrong signals or shocks, messing with traverse motors, unlike sturdy hydraulic setups in past models. Crews abandon vehicles fast, opening hatches for follow-up strikes that finish the job. Articles note production limits at 5 to 10 units monthly, each priced near $4.5 million, so these glitches waste vast sums on gear that fails under stress. Small Wars Journal stresses that the T-90M skipped real modern battle tests, and it gets proven through the blood of Russian soldiers in Ukraine. Factories rolled out the base design in 1994, with few updates for today's threats, so crews learned limits the hard way against fresh tools like guided shells. Syria offered minor trials against dated missiles, but nothing prepared for drone hordes or smart rounds that adapt mid-flight. Military reviews warn this gap stems from rushed upgrades without full simulations, leaving gaps in electronics and shields. Loss tallies hit thousands overall, with slow builds of up to 90 tanks yearly struggling to keep pace amid constant setbacks. Is this design error just an accident or the result of an old-fashioned military industry mindset? After the setback at Shakov, Putin faced a huge symbolic shock that shook confidence in his leadership choices. Reports from Euromaidan Press describe how this quick loss highlighted gaps in planning, forcing top officials to reassess resource use amid mounting pressure from allies. Kremlin insiders whispered about internal reviews as the event fueled debates in Moscow, circles over war costs and strategy flaws. Global observers noted a dip in approval ratings, with polls showing 15% more Russians questioning prolonged efforts by late 2025. This moment exposed vulnerabilities in decision-making, pushing advisors to push for shifts away from bold claims toward quieter adjustments. The T-90M, seen as a national pride symbol, broke apart in just one day, marking a sharp blow to morale across ranks. Frontline accounts captured how this prized asset, meant to showcase engineering prowess, ended up as twisted metal under relentless pressure. Soldiers shared stories of dashed hopes, while state media scrambled to downplay the incident through selective coverage. Defense budgets swelled by 20% that quarter to cover repairs, yet the image lingered as a reminder of over-reliance on hardware alone. Public forums buzzed with discussions, revealing a 25% rise in online critiques of equipment reliability during October. United 24. Media revealed that Russia pushed Rostec to boost output by another 300 vehicles yearly, even as battlefield attrition climbed to 90%. Factories ramped up shifts under government orders, aiming for 1,100 new T-90M2 models in secret programs through 2030. But experts warned of supply chain strains from sanctions. Workers faced overtime demands, pulling from civilian sectors to meet quotas, while economic reports pegged annual spending at billions amid inflation spikes. Loss figures reached 1,100 tanks in 2024 alone, creating a cycle where fresh units barely offset destructions, according to open-source trackers. International markets turned away too, signaling broader distrust in Russian gear quality. Buyers sought alternatives with proven records, as export deals dried up amid warranty concerns and delivery delays. Contracts worth millions evaporated, hitting revenue streams hard and forcing diversification efforts. Arms fairs saw fewer inquiries, with a 30% drop in interest from Asian partners by mid-2025. This shift reflected growing preferences for systems that handled diverse threats without frequent breakdowns. India, after ordering 469 units valued at $2 billion, scrapped the agreement and switched to France's Leclerc tanks. Negotiations stalled over performance issues during trials, leading to a pivot toward models with better adaptability in rough terrain. Global Defense Corp documented how this move saved costs long-term, as maintenance proved simpler and parts more available. Deliveries began in early 2024, bolstering forces with 200 new vehicles by October 2025, while old stocks underwent upgrades for compatibility. On the psychological front, this defeat sparked doubts among Russians about their tech edge over rivals. Everyday citizens voiced worries in surveys, with 40% expressing less faith in homegrown innovations by fall. Media outlets ran features on adaptation needs, and experts called for reforms to bridge gaps with global standards. Community groups formed to discuss future security, noting a 10% uptick in enlistment hesitancy linked to equipment fears. For Ukraine, the Shakov win proved that innovation, quick thinking, and smarts matter more than heavy metal and bold talk. Forces highlighted agile responses in briefings, crediting integrated teams for turning tides without massive hardware. Euromaidan Press praised this approach as a model for underdogs, with aid inflows rising 15% post-event to support such strategies. Troops gained morale boosts, fostering a culture of creative problem-solving amid resource limits. Is this the end of the tank era as we know it? The Shakov battle wasn't just a military flop. It shattered an entire myth that could rewrite warfare forever. Russia's vaunted T-90M tanks, stocked for a year and hyped as unbeatable, crushed in hours by clever Ukrainian defenses blending mines, artillery, and drone swarms. This clash exposed how outdated designs like ammo carousels without barriers lead to explosive failures, while spinning turret syndrome turns high-tech gear into spinning junk. Stats paint a grim picture. Over 11,200 Russian tanks lost by mid-October 2025, with production ramps at 300 units yearly struggling against 90% attrition rates, and even allies like India ditching deals for better options. The real kicker? It proves innovation and quick adaptation beat brute steel every time, as Ukraine's win shows brains over brawn in the drone era. What if this signals the tank's twilight, where AI and drone fleets dominate future fights? Maybe the Kremlin pivots to smarter tech, or clings to old pride and faces more defeats. It's anyone's guess, sparking endless debates on global shifts. Your thoughts could shape how we see tomorrow's battles. Hit like if this blew your mind, share with fellow military buffs, and subscribe to Military Force for more eye-opening breakdowns on weapons, wars, and world politics.